All right, let's jump right in here to our daily lesson. It's talking about my sister, who is 4.5 years older than me, almost exactly, actually. And we're going to see if we can build a table of values and then actually write an expression for that situation. So my sister's name is Leah. My name is Sam. And it says that my sister's 4.5 years older than me. So that means when I was 0, when I was just born, my sister was 4.5 years old. So it means when I was 1 years old, Leah would have been 5.5 years old. So let's think for a second. How am I doing this? How am I finding how old my sister is? Well, I'm taking how old I am, right? Taking how old I am, and I'm adding 4.5. Taking how old I am, and I'm adding 4.5. Now let's say my sister is 10 years old. If my sister was 10. Take a guess. How old would I have been if I was 4.5 years older? Well, how would you figure that? You might say, oh, I know this right away, Mr. Schneider. It's 5.5. You were 5.5 years old. And I say, well, how'd you get that? And you might say, well, all I had to do was I had to take 10, the 10 years that your sister had, and since she's 4.5 years older, I just had to subtract 4.5 to figure out how old you were. Okay, so let's say when she was, I guess let's take right now. Right now, she is about, she's going to get mad at me for saying this, but she's about 30, she's about 31 years old. So, if my sister currently is about 31 years old, how old must I be? Take 30 seconds to pause and see if you can get it. All right, so if you guessed correctly, 31 take away, she's 4.5 years older, so I need to take away 4.5. And so that would mean I am about 26.5. And I'm a little off in my math here because I'm not that old. And you might be saying, well, how'd you get that? Well, I can line it up, right? I can line up my decimals and take away 4.5. So I might need to do some regrouping there. That becomes a 2. And there's a 5 over there. Oh my gosh, all this regrouping and stuff. 12 take away 4 is 8. So I'm 28.5. So I totally got my math wrong. That is not how old I am. But when my sister is 31, I will be 28.5. I still am not totally comfortable with that math. Let me think. 27? Huh? No, I got it wrong. Totally got it wrong. Because this would have been 31. This would have, sorry. I would be about 26.5. And that's not true either. I'm not that old. Okay? So let's think about this. If you know my age, how can you figure out my sister's age? Well, you can take me, right? And you can add 4.5 onto my age. You can take S and add 4.5. Or if you know my sister's age, you can take L and you can take away 4.5. So if we let S equal how many years old Sam is, and let L be how many years old Leah is, then we can write two expressions. We can say S plus 4.5, so we can take my age and add 4.5, or we can do L take away 4.5. And we have proof of that from the table. Okay, so let's move on to a few more complex examples. So first of all, we have a CFS, right? First things first, we should have at least 2 columns when we use these tables to find out these expressions. So let me get my camera refocused here. And then we should also have some annotations, which you can basically be thinking, how'd you get your answer? These things right here, these are our annotations. So those are must-haves. We need to have those in there. How did you get your answer? Well, in our situation, we added 4.5, something like that. And then for your rows, we should have 4 to 5 rows of numbers and at least 2 for variables. So we can see that we did that here at the end. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and then we have 2 rows down here for our variables. And of course, when you give those variables, we learned in our last lesson, we need to define them. We need to be specific. Okay, so you got to say years. Is it months? Is it minutes? Is it hours? Is it whatever it is? We got to define it. We got to be close. So let's take a look here at a new situation and see if we can use our CFS to help us get some good work done. All right. So you'll need to look on yours because mine's super blurry and it's not fixing itself, and I don't know why. So it says Noah and Carter are collecting box tops for their school. They each bring in 1 box top per day, starting on the first day of school. However, Carter had a head start because his aunt sent him 15 box tops before school began. Noah's grandma saved 10 box tops, and Noah added those on the first day. So we have two guys, right? Carter, who has a head start with 15 box tops before school begins. We have Noah, who saves 10 box tops, right? But they each have one per day, all right? So that means on day 0, before this thing is even started, before this competition has even begun, come on, camera, you can refocus, you can do it. Before this thing has even begun, we know how many Noah has, we know how many Carter has. There we go. The camera finally worked. How about that? Okay, so that means on day 0, Noah's grandma saved 10 box tops before this thing even started. So it means Noah has 10 even before the first day happens. How many does Carter have? Well, Carter says that he has some from his aunt. He has 15 before the first day even starts. And so then, let's try a couple more days and see what happens. Let's say day 1. Day 1, if they each bring in 1 per day, how much will they have? Well, Noah would have 1 more, and Carter would have 1 more. Let's keep going. What about day 2? What would we do? Well, now we would take 10 and we would add 2 because they're bringing in 1 per day. And 10 plus 2 is 12. So I want to think, how did I get that? I took 10 plus 2. So that means over here, it means I must have 15 plus 2. So you'd have 17. So how would I have that? 15 plus 2. Let's keep going. Let's say on the 10th day. On the 10th day, what would happen? On the 10th day, Noah would probably have 20, right? Because we need to add the number of days. They're both bringing in 1 each day. And so Noah would have 20. I took 10, and I added 10 on, the 10 he started with. That means on day 10, Carter must have 25. 25. So we take the 10 from here, and we add the 15 that he starts with. So now, we're going to say let D equal, let's scroll down here, let D equal the number of days of school and write an expression for the number of box tops that they each brought separately. Okay, so on day D, so way off in the future, or I don't know, somewhere off in somewhere land, we have day D. How are we going to figure out how many Noah has? Well, I'm going to take however many days there are, and I'm going to add how many to it? Well, the amount he started with. He has 10. He has that 10 head start. So the days plus 10. Or for Carter, it'd obviously be how different? The day plus 15. So there's our expressions. To find Noah's, I do day plus 10 because he had 10 to start with from his aunt. And Carter would have day plus 15. Oh, sorry. He had 10 from his grandma. He had 15 from his aunt. So those are our expressions for each boy in this situation. Let's go ahead and try something even more complex here and see what we can do. Something even more complex. So let's take a look at it. So in this one it says each week Valverde recycles 200 pounds of paper. So that seems important. KSPA also recycles the same amount, but they had another 300 pounds left over from Saturday school sessions. And the KSPA custodian adds that to the first recycled week. KDC, on the other hand, recycles the same amount as both schools, but 200 pounds of extra paper they used from their last introduction week for freshmen. Okay, so let's think about our columns. We've got 3 schools, so I might have Valverde, our neighbors, KSPA, and KDC. So we have these 3 schools, and they have a different amount of paper recycled each week. But each week they recycled 200 pounds of paper. Now the difference is KSPA had some left over from their Saturday school sessions, and KDC had some from their introduction week for freshmen. So that means in week 0, Valverde starts with 0. But what does KSPA start with? KSPA starts with 300 pounds from Saturday school sessions. And KDC has a special week for freshmen, and they had 200 left over from that one. But remember, each week, they're going to recycle the same amount each week. So 1 week later, it says KDC recycles 200 pounds of paper each week. Everybody recycles the same every week, so all I have to do is add 200 on. So it's the week plus 200. So Valverde has 200. KSPA, we must have 500. KDC must have 700. So let's keep going on week 2. Now we've got 2 weeks, right? So now we have to add on 0 plus the number of weeks that we have, V, then there's cycled expressions, okay? So how am I going to get this? Well, I'm going to take how much I had, the 0, and I'm going to add 200 more pounds on, right? So I'm going to have 400. I'm going to have 300 plus 200. Or I got 500 plus 200. That's going to give me to 700. KDC is going to end up with a little bit more than that. They're going to end up with, or no, a little less than that, because they're adding 200 of them too. 200, oh, I added way too much to them. The first time they should have had, let's see, 400. Now they should have 600. So if we look at this, hopefully we can write an expression for how much each school should have.